one of the freakiest horror movies. I don't even want to say it's a horror movie because it's like a psycho thriller horror movie that came out recently, and I went to the theater to see it because I'm a big theater guy. It's called Smile, and now it is available on one of our favorite apps, Paramount Plus, and digital just in general. It came out this week. One of the stars of the movie, you also know him from American Sniper, the cult classic, Dinner in America, going all the way back to Wet Hot Summer, American Summer. Kyle Gallner plays Joel in Smile. And I got to ask you, Kyle, like, during your filming of this movie, did you get freaked out at all when all these weirdos started having that weird smile at you?
You know, Sosie, who plays Rose, had to deal with a lot more of that stuff than I did.
Yeah.
She definitely had to deal with way more of the smiling than I did. And, you know, when you're on set, it's almost clinical. You know, it's like you got to hit your mark. You got to do your thing. You got to be in the right spot for the camera. So it's not super scary filming it, but so much happens from like script to screen that by the time you actually watch the movie, even though you made the movie, there are still plenty of things to like surprise you.
You hear with these types of movies that I'm not a big horror film, but I can watch a good psych thriller. You know, that's what kind of this is, because, you know, you play, you know, a cop and there's like this thing behind it and you're trying to figure out, you know, what this entity is that's making people smile before they commit suicide. And you learn that, you know, I don't want to give everything away, but that's pretty much the gist of it. But you hear in these types of movies that during the filming and when it's done, like there's some bad juju that's sometimes left with the actors and the set. Was there any bad juju left on the set with this one?
I don't know, man. For me, I was okay. I drove right back home and I was good. So if anybody else had any problems, I feel bad. But I was good. I've had some stuff though. Like I did a movie called Haunting Connecticut when I was younger, and we stayed in a really haunted hotel, and it's like the first and only time I ever had just weird supernatural type ghost stuff happen.
Yeah.
You know, like I would be in bed and all of a sudden the room would get cold and I shot up out of bed one day because I like felt a body come into bed and like press up against my body or weird things like that. So it's entirely possible.
Well, you know, like take the movie Poltergeist, for
Yeah, I was
example.
gonna say Poltergeist is the ultimate version of that. Yeah,
Cursed, the Superman curse, you know, those types of
100%.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would scare me if I were a talented actor like you are, and you're asked to do these types of films. You're like, you got something on Hallmark for me instead?
Yeah, do I really want to open that door, let that in?
Yeah, but it was popular, and like I said, you know, it did well at the box office. It'll do, and I like the timing of it coming out like for Halloween and then shortly after to digital. Do you think that this is kind of the new schedule for movies? Is give it a couple weeks to take a breather and then hit digital right away?
I mean, I kind of hope so in a way, just because I mean, look, we were fortunate. Like, our Smile's been in theaters longer than most movies get to be in theaters now. Most things are in for like a week and then they're out. I mean, Halloween released digitally the same day it released in theaters, you know? So this film was a bit of an anomaly. Like you never know what's gonna take off, you never know what's gonna hit, you never know what's gonna have staying power or what people are gonna go see. I would love to see, and this isn't a knock on like superhero movies and things like that, but those movies make so much money and they take up so much space in the theaters that the turnover on these other movies is so fast because there's not enough theaters to play them, you
Mhm.
know, or they're not leaving them in the theaters long enough that it would be nice to see a couple theaters open up to allow films like this to kind of live and actually find an audience and build and, you know, build some momentum before they just get tossed out into the next, you know,
Yeah,
the next phase. I mean, you think about back in the day, I mean, I think E.T. was in theaters for a year.
yeah, yeah.
Like, it's wild.
Well, Smile, I think last time we just went and saw like I said, we like to go to the movies. So,
Yeah, hell
it's,
yeah.
it was like, we're looking at what's out and what we've seen Black Adam. We didn't want to go see Black Panther. We're not into that franchise. We were like, my wife was like, what about Ticket in Paradise? Or no, actually, I suggested it, the George Clooney movie. And I was like, it's a chick flick. I'll get brownie points. It was a phenomenal film, and it was great to see in theaters. But I think I remember seeing Smile was still in our theater. I mean, this was a week and a half ago
Yeah,
or something. And
yeah.
I was surprised because I looked at some other movies like even Black Adam, which was huge at the box office. There are less showings of Black Adam now. There's only like 2 showings versus 4 or 5. So they're rolling them in and out pretty quickly now.
Yeah, and Smile's still making a couple million a week. Like I know they've cut down, like there's like 800 or so theaters that it's been taken out of. But I mean it's still making money and doing well. People are still going.
Yeah, is it's tough to make a good horror film, right? I mean, outside of the blood and guts, the '80s it was easy because you didn't have to have a mind f, right? Now you really have to have a mind f, and that's what makes it horrific because people, if it's real to somebody, it's scary. Nobody's going to believe Jason or Freddy or Michael Myers anymore. They're just not going to believe it.
I mean, the cool part about horror is there's definitely something for everybody. There are people who really love slashers, who like the
Yeah.
Michael Myers and the Freddys and the Jasons, and I mean, Scream did incredibly well. There's another one coming out. Um, so it's really like it depends on what you're into. I think what Smile does, which is interesting, is it kind of feeds everybody, right? It feeds people who maybe aren't the biggest horror fans, and then it has enough in there for like the hardcore horror fans. And like you're saying, it's got the mind f, right? It's got something going on there that I think the scariest thing in the world is somebody's own mind. You can't escape your own mind, and
Mm.
if things start going off the rails, I mean it's a scary place to be. And I think there's just something relatable to that. I think we've all sort of been there at one point or another where we've spiraled out of control a little bit, or
Mm.
or, or maybe just I know not just me, but I've definitely been there. And so I think there's something people are latching on to with the film that um is making it a pretty unique experience.
And you guys had the good formula. This is the same
Sure.
formula. The same formula I say is for the great rock bands for a name. You have to have the salty, and you have to have the sweet.
Yeah.
Judas Priest. Those types of bands. Smash Mouth. Those types of bands. They have a little bit. If I were to name a band, it'd be like Blood Smile or something like that. But what you guys did is you took the idea that there's this uh, demonic entity, and it's there when the person has this goofy ass smile. So you don't know whether to
Mm,
laugh, freak out. So you've
right.
got the salty and the sweet. And it was brilliant, I thought.
That smile
Yeah.
definitely makes you freak out.
Yeah, Nikki's seen it too. And we were talking about it before we got you on. She was like, man, that smile. I was like, I had nightmares.
It'll make you
Yeah. Well, I mean, you sit there and you're weaponizing something that's supposed to be friendly and welcoming, right? You're taking
Yeah,
something that's
yeah.
supposed to be disarming and something that's supposed to let somebody know you're safe or you're okay or hey, everything's all right, and you're turning it into something evil essentially. You're flipping it on its head. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing after we saw the movie and we got home. My wife and I were laying in bed in the dark, and just the light of the TV was on, and I just kind of leaned over to her, just stared at her, and put on this big smile. And she,
That's funny. I bet I'd love to know how many people have done that. That's pretty great.
somebody should do a compilation, of just the over and over again doing that to somebody to freak them out. As far as horror movies go, Kyle, for you and your taste, what would be the best and or the scariest?
I'm really all over the board. I like you know, I love sort of like some of the classic horror stuff. Like I love like the old slashers, like the Freddy's and Jasons and things like that. The Halloweens. I'm a big fan of the Alien franchise. Jaws was a big one growing up. The Thing. Uh, I think 28 Days Later is amazing. Like there's a movie called The Descent that I love, and then there's some movies that are just absolutely brutal. Like there's this movie called Martyrs, but it has to be the French version. That is so hard to watch, but great in its own right. There really is something for everybody.
Yeah, there's a movie I talk about it from time to time called Funny Games,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's horrific. Like I can't watch it ever again.
They're both
It's
they're both good. The original and the remake are both good.
oh, I can't watch it. I mean, the guy, the kid that comes in from
That's terrible.
Empire, and he
Yeah.
goes in and he's the home invasion. The home invasion is what scares me.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
Oh my God, that and the remake of The Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
The first one wasn't anywhere near as bad as the second one, and even the original Hills Have Eyes.
Mm,
Uh, the remake of that
yeah.
opening scene that freaks you out too, because we got those people in Georgia. They're weird.
But yeah, I mean, I think something like Funny Games is so scary because you can really put yourself there to be like, oh, this could happen. This
Yeah.
could absolutely happen.
Absolutely. That's why
You
it's
know?
so scary. I think today that's what scares people is knowing it could be real.
Sure.
That's what I was saying before. That's what you turn on the news, and I mean that's a horror flick in itself. And you're
100%.
like, oh, there's a home invasion 2 miles away from my house. Oh, there's this movie about home invasions. Oh shit, this is real. That's scary.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
real scary.
absolutely.
Nick, you got a question for Kyle?
I was just curious, the way that Smile ended, it left me feeling like, oh, why'd they do this? I wanted like a different type of alternate. So, like, did you guys have an alternate ending? Like, did they have more than one option?
No, it
No.
was always written to be that brutal, which actually is very funny because that's my favorite part.
Oh, no.
It was very Blair Witchy, I must say. It's very
Yeah.
Blair Witchy.
I like that it went there. I like that they did it. I like that the studio was down to do an ending like that. I thought it was pretty cool.
So does that mean no Smile 2?
Right.
You know, it is there are decision makers way further up the ladder than me who make those calls.
Well, I could see Smile 2 being based off of whoever buys that house. Somebody moves into the house,
Yeah.
and then this chain starts all over again
Yeah, it could be.
because the entity's in the
Still
house,
there.
and you're still around too. So
That's what I mean. I have no idea. Everything's left really open ended. They could do anything.
if they ask you, you're in, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go all day.
I got nothing else to do.
Let's go.
Did that help as an actor, being with a movie that did well and is continuing to do well and will, I think, even do even better in the digital space? As an actor, does that get your name out even more than what it already is? I mean, you've done a lot of big things, but there's always bigger things to do, right?
Yeah, I mean it definitely helps. It can't hurt. It's just the thing is like to what extent, nothing is ever guaranteed in this industry. It's all unknown. It all depends who watches it, who likes it, who cares about it, if they care about it, so there's a million and one things that can happen. But yeah, it definitely helps. To what degree, we'll see.
Hmm.
Until then, I'll just keep pushing and auditioning and trying to get the next job.
So do you still go into the cattle call stuff with everybody else, or have you made it to a point where it's like, why don't you come over to my house and we'll do it at my house?
Well, no, you do self tapes. So what you do is you put the audition on tape at home and then you send it in. And then they check it out. So it's like typical casting situation. You just read for the role and then you see what happens, and then sometimes you either book it right away or sometimes they want to have you read again or read for the director and producers. There's multiple different ways it could go.
What was the most disappointing audition You thought you killed it, you wanted the gig, and you ended up not getting it, and it blew up.
I really wanted Paul Dano's role in There Will Be Blood.
And you lost to whom?
Paul Dano.
Oh, Paul Dano. Okay, so you lost to Paul Dano, but you wanted that job because you loved the script, you loved the movie.
Oh, it was amazing. I also looked like I was like 9 years old. I was way too, I mean, I was the right age, but I looked like I was 12 for like until I was like 25.
Yeah. What's one of the most recent ones that you're still waiting to hear back on?
Honestly, nothing right now. It's pretty slow. Holiday seasons are pretty slow. So I'm really just like enjoying my downtime.
Oh, I was gonna say Hallmark. They're always looking for somebody you could do Smile the holiday version.
You could. I don't know what that would look like, but you could.
That'd be kind of weird.
Hmm.
What is your dream gig? Like, if you see these shows out there now, like Yellowstone, that's so popular and whatnot, or a franchise that you just a fan of, what would be your dream gig?
It's such an impossible question. There's so many things that I love, and there's so many different things that I want to do that it's like I have like a checklist of like 50 things that I would like to accomplish.
I could see you in either a Batman. Like I
Sure.
could even see you pulling off a.
Yeah.
Just he
I
looks like
can.
you
He
would be in a,
does.
not as Batman, but in a Batman.
Yeah.
You're
A
so
movie like that.
you could even pull off a Robin for. So I don't know. I see Robin in you. I don't know. Like we don't
I
never.
would love if they wanted to do a Nightwing movie, I would be all in on that. That would be awesome.
We never really got a taste. We got a little bit of a taste of Robin with
Yeah.
was Chris O'Connell or Donnell, whatever his name is. And
Well, they had that Titans TV show, which was about Nightwing, that's when Robin goes off on his own.
yeah, and then I could see you doing a stoner movie. You seem like kind of a stoner guy. I could see you doing a stoner movie.
Dude, I can't even smoke. I get too paranoid. I get like
Me too.
super fucked up about it. I'm like, it's like, it's not good. It's like the Sears truck is filled with FBI agents in my mind. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even.
So Nate lives in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and he's our resident. I mean, this guy can smoke anybody out of the house. So if Kyle, you and I got together and went and visited Nate, we would be freaking out. We'd be like, oh my God, there's somebody in the tacos. There's somebody in the burritos.
Yeah, it'd be no good. It would be no good.
Nate, question for Kyle, please.
Yeah, I loved you in Outsiders and just the show in general. And
Oh, hell yeah.
I was so sad when it was canceled or whatever happened after 2 seasons. What did happen? Did they just not pick it up, or did actors not want to be involved anymore?
No, so what happened was it's kind of like this takeover. So essentially, we were ready to go. Like we had all the sets done, everybody was like on hold. Me and my wife were talking to realtors about finding a rental, and like 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave, they were like, "Hold up." And what happened was Obama had put something in place to keep like news media from becoming like a monopoly, like a company basically being able to buy up all of these news outlets and creating a monopoly on all that. So Sinclair Media wanted to buy WGN, and that thing Obama had put into place stopped them from doing that. Trump came into office and lifted it. And Sinclair Media came in, bought WGN, fired everybody, and canceled everything. It was like a hostile takeover, and everybody lost their jobs. Everybody lost everything. We were supposed to go. There was supposed to be season 3. There was a writer's room. We had a showrunner. I was talking to the showrunner about all the new script stuff. We were like weeks away from leaving, and then they just
So
axed it.
you were a victim of the world, is what you were.
It just happens, man. It's like you just never know. Things like that just happen.
That's nuts, though. I mean, like, to lose a gig that helps put food on your table because of politics.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially when you're told like get ready, we're going, and then they're like, just kidding.
Yeah. Does your wife
And
go
Jason,
with you? Oh, go ahead. What?
Oh, I was gonna say it was such a great show, but it was one of those ones since they didn't know that it was ending. They not like the loose
They
ends
didn't
weren't
end it.
tied up,
Yeah.
or Yeah, so it just kind of like dropped off, and you're like, what happened? So
Yeah.
hopefully somebody else picks it up. Would you be involved if somebody else grabbed it?
They tried to do it. People they shopped it around. People weren't biting on it. I don't know if it'll ever come back, but I mean, let's look. I wasn't gonna die. I survived. Things were gonna happen. But yeah,
That's
I don't
good.
know.
Good to know.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
Hassel lives.
that's what they told.
Yeah.
That's what they told you in The Walking Dead too, right? You weren't supposed to die.
No, no, no. I knew immediately I was gonna die. The whole thing with that was like they wanted somebody who was recognizable enough, not like a huge name, but somebody you're like, oh, that guy. There's no
Right.
way they'll kill that guy. And so the whole idea was bring somebody like me on, so people think I'm gonna stick around, and then they just kill you immediately. So it was sort of that like nobody's safe type of thing.
And it was the oddest death. I mean, you got bit on the leg, which was
Uh,
fun, but
Dude,
then
I
you
got
had,
bit on the neck.
I thought it was the leg and then the neck. It was the leg first, right? Then they grab your leg and bite your
I
calf.
think they grabbed the leg and then they bit my neck and then they made sure I was not coming back at all. They like really really made sure I was dead. They were like, let's just crush him with the helicopter so we don't have to put makeup on him.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's died on The Walking Dead and then died again at the same time. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
died.
Oh yeah, they weren't messing around. They were like, you're not welcome back here, Kyle.
and anybody else that's ever been a part of the group, they've done everything they can to save him. They all looked at you and go, screw it, he's dead. Fuck him, he's out.
Leave it. He's gone. Yeah. But I will say I had a great time. That was a really, really nice set to work on. Really good group of people, nice people. I had a lot of fun on that actually.
And you were there during like the Scott Wilson days, right? He was still alive on the show and alive in real life.
Yeah, I was on season 4, so I think so.
That was the Beth years, right?
Yeah.
The Beth years. I remember because I was a diehard fan forever.
Yeah, Nick Cotero did my episode.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Like that was at the height of The Walking Dead. I mean, where you guys couldn't go outside because people would hound you.
Well, I could.
Well, you could. You're like, do you get asked to, I mean, because you were recognizable and you had such a kind of a cool, weird, odd death, do you get asked to do those conventions?
Yeah, sort of. Sometimes I have people that try to get me to do them. I have nothing, not knocking anybody who does them or anything like that. I don't like being around that many people.
No, I don't blame you.
So I've done one. Maybe I'll do more, but right now I'm good just hanging out.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like you go to these conventions and you're probably asked to do them for Smile as well, because these horror conventions, I mean, the cons are a big deal. And you see some of these people that are just standing there by themselves, and you walk by and you feel bad that if you don't talk to them or give them money for a picture, and you're like, oh, I remember you. And it's an old picture behind them. And it's an awkward situation, really awkward situation.
I've never been, other than the one that I've been to, I've never been to any of them, so I can't really speak to it. But I mean, it's I think they're cool. I think they're a great way for people to meet people, that they like, and I think fandom is an amazing thing. Without fans, who are we really? We do this for people to enjoy what we do, and people enjoy what they do and they become fans of the things we do. So it's like I'm super appreciative of everybody who watches and everybody who becomes a fan of these things. And I think it's a really unique way for people to meet each other and be in the same spot. I mean, look, man, I literally live like in the middle of the woods, like in the middle of nowhere, like
that's awesome.
So being around like a ton of people for me it's nothing against the people. It's really cool that they all show up, but it's more like for my own personal well-being. I get overwhelmed.
Oh, we should get you high and put you at one of these conventions and film.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
You should go to one of these wrestling conventions. Like I got buddies in the wrestling business, and it's really, for some of them, it's sad. And, and I know some of the guys on the higher ends that are always going to have a line. And I know some of the people on the lower end that they don't normally have a line. And it's like, you really have to be okay with that. Cause it would,
Sure,
I'm too
right.
arrogant. I'm too arrogant. I couldn't do it. It would bruise my ego. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of it, right? You never know. You just never know who's going to show up, who's going to come, and every convention could be different. Everything could be different. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, just you take comfort in the fact that like you were invited. You know what I mean? Like you were
Yeah.
picked to be there. Like that's cool. You've done something that warranted you to be there, which is cool.
Well, I'll rethink the invitation if I ever get it for the radio/podcasting convention.
Right.
Before we let Kyle go, Nikki, do you have any more questions?
You said right now you're on break, you're not having to work. So I want to know, what are you binge watching? What are you into right now?
Ooh.
Um, I'm terrible, man. I don't really watch anything. You know what I actually have been watching a bit though? My buddy Chris Coy, who's a very good actor, is on The Peripheral.
Oh yeah. That's catching a lot of like
Yeah,
people's eyes. Yeah.
it's doing really well. So, I've been watching that a bit, which has been cool. It's good.
Yeah. Isn't that neat to watch somebody that's in the show that's buddies of, like you can
Yeah.
text them. You're like,
Yeah,
"Dude,
it's fun.
this
I have
was
like
awesome."
I have two friends that I've known for a really, really long time that we've like come up together, and we worked really hard and went through a lot of growing pains together, and it's nice. It's nice to see your friends succeed, you know?
Are they both actors?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all actors, and we all just like suffered for years together.
And now all three of you successful.
Yeah, we all work, which is great.
That's good. All right.
Yeah.
Nate, question for Kyle before we let him go.
Yeah, I was just wondering, your wife, is she an actress also, or just a
No.
normal person?
She's a normal person.
She puts
No,
together conventions.
she's got the hardest job in the world, man. She's mom. She helps take care of our boys when I'm away.
Yeah. I could see you being in Yellowstone too. You got a Yellowstone look too.
Well, that's because me and Luke Grimes look so much alike.
You do look a lot like Luke Grimes.
Yeah.
And they've thrown Josh Lucas in it. They've got everybody in that. What a
Yeah.
great show. You a fan? Watch any of it?
I haven't watched it. My wife's watched all of it. I haven't. She binge watched it on the last job that I was on, so I didn't even know she was watching it. Then I came home and all of a sudden she's like, "I'm starting season 5." I was like, "What?"
Are you buddies with any of those guys and girls on that set?
Me and Luke did American Sniper together. We
That's
didn't.
right. He was in that.
Yeah. He's a really good guy. We got along really well. We didn't really stay in touch, but he's somebody that if we saw each other, we would be friendly, and it'd be nice to see him. Actually, I like Luke.
That dude's cool. Like
Yeah.
real cool. His character in Yellowstone is the same character he played for the most part, just a lot tougher in Magnificent Seven. And yeah, and so like the same look, the same grungy kind of thing, but he's such a phenomenal actor. He really, really is. That's what I tell people about that show, is the character building in that show is just second to none. That's what it's all about, the stories and the characters and whatnot. Before last thing, the American Sniper stuff that you brought up with Bradley Cooper and the fake baby. About
That was the rap gift. We were all given fake babies.
Isn't that sad? That's the next day critics were like, instead of talking about the story behind American Sniper, they want to talk about the fake baby. How was that working with Bradley Cooper?
That was cool. I actually, like 100 years ago, he was on this TV show called Jack and Bobby, and I worked with him when I was really young.
Mhm.
And then years later, I got to work with him again. And he's from my neck of the woods, actually. He's from like 2 towns over or whatever, back in Pennsylvania, where I grew up. So it was cool. It was cool to work with him again after so long. And we were also both in Wet Hot American Summer, which was like my first movie that I ever my first bigger movie that I ever did. So it was cool to see him. It was pretty funny to see him, because there's a lot of weird sort of connections there.
6 Degrees. Yeah, you look back at Wet Hot American Summer and that cast.
It's got everybody. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not like if you were to look at the top 15 actors, actresses in that movie, all 15 of you guys and girls have done it. You've made it. You're doing stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous. All right. Right now, I think it's over $200 million. That's the gross what Smile
Yeah.
has brought in. And now it's available on streaming, digital platforms, Paramount Plus. You've got to watch this movie. Watch it with the lights out. It's phenomenal. And Kyle Gallner does an excellent job as Joel, trying to keep Rosie in line and not getting her to smile. And you'll see how that works out. All right. Hey, brother, thanks so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you. And it was a
Yeah,
pleasure
man.
to
Thanks
talk
for
to you.
having me.
Hopefully we'll have you back on another time. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you guys. Take it easy.
Bye, Kyle.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks, Kyle.
Later.